Welcome back to the One Question Leadership Podcast. I'm Glenn Caruso, head football coach at the University of St. Thomas, and so happy you tuned in. You know, quite often we get so caught up in the daily grind of work or coaching or recruiting that we don't often take time to reflect. I would encourage everybody to take just a few minutes each day to try and see the bigger picture, to stop and realize that in the end, we're going to be judged on what we choose to believe, who we choose to love, and what we decide to leave behind in the hearts and minds of not just our players, not just our coworkers, but also our children. And remember, if we're doing it right, we're coaching football for life.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at 1Q Leadership. This episode will be hosted by one of our guest hosts, Kendi Hilliard. Kendi is a student athlete with Illinois State and she's also an intern in the athletics department. Take it away, Kendi.
Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. My name is Kendi Hilliard, and I am a current volleyball player at Illinois State University, and today I will be guest hosting this episode of One Question. On this podcast, I will be joined by Emmanuel Flowers, who is a redshirt junior football player at Michigan State University. Hi, Emmanuel. Thank you for coming to talk to me on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So the reason I wanted to get you on the podcast today is to discuss how you've stayed focused on both your academic and athletic goals during the pandemic.
One way I've been able to stay focused and, stay on top of things, I feel like is like keeping a schedule. Keeping and following, a schedule has been helpful to me because, I feel like it's kept me organized, by making sure I do everything on my schedule in my day. Feel like I'm getting closer to my goals. I feel like you just kind of wake up and you don't have things like set and plan for your day. It's harder to get stuff done. Also, I feel like staying connected with my friends and family back home has been important because they keep me motivated to chase my goals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I know that for me and Redbird Volleyball, we had constant contact with each other and we're doing Zoom workouts with each other every day and just trying to keep in touch that way.
Yeah, it was kind of similar. Our strength and conditioning staff put up like tutorials for each day for us. They do different, body parts like Monday, Tuesday, and we have Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday. So similar to what we're doing right now. But a lot of people didn't have weights. So they had a weight workout set for people who did have weights, and then they had like workouts with like jugs of water or something like that, or just things you can use at home for people who don't have weights at home. And then the running was obviously just regular running, but it was awesome. They kind of put together like a workout for every day of the week, so we was kind of good. We were on track with that.
Yeah, you gotta love the strength and conditioning staff. They're always working 24/7. And I know you as an athlete appreciate them because I know I do. So I guess you could say that this was one of your biggest challenges, both academically and athletically.
For
but
sure.
If this wasn't the hardest thing you faced, what was?
No, that for sure was like the main challenge. Kind of just adapting to everything closing down. Usually when I'm home, I'm able to go to my trainer, to lift and run. With the gyms being shut down, I had to kind of improvise, do some things I wouldn't normally do. But, like I said, our strength and conditioning staff did a great job sending us workouts throughout the week, and it ended up pretty much working out well. But that was my biggest challenge, just adapting to not being able to go out and, do my workouts.
Now that you face those academic and athletic challenges of the pandemic, you're then hit with the discussions about social injustice and racism. What inspires you to speak up about social injustice and racism, not only back at home in California, but at your school as well?
I feel like the main thing that, inspires me to speak up is just the want for change, because I know that change can and will come. I feel like the only way to progress and create change is by people stepping out and speaking up, because the change starts with that conversation and that understanding. I feel like I can't sit back as an African-American man in this country and just, continue to watch our Black men and women be mistreated time and time again. and then not say a word. I feel like speaking up for me is really not an option. It's more like an obligation to me.
So now that you're back at school and everything, what is the conversation or the vibe like with your teammates and coaching staff, and how are people adjusting to you speaking out?
So the conversation with my teammates and coaches, I feel like they kind of went good to me. It kind of consisted of everybody just being able to state their opinions about what's going on and their ideas. But it was amazing to see like my teammates and coaches, of all different backgrounds come together, listen and understand where we're coming from, and also explain, that they're right there with us and are supporting us through it all. The conversation also consisted of us talking about like what we can do as athletes to help create change. We talked about using our platforms to speak up, and we even talked about, little practical things like voting. So the vibe was great to me.
Yeah, I can completely relate to the teammates being supportive and coaching staff just all being super supportive, and I'm glad that you're receiving that love as well, especially with you speaking out and everything. But compared to now and prior to being back on campus, has the conversation changed, or what did y'all discuss prior to getting back to campus?
So we would have different people come on for our meetings. Like one time we actually had some police officers come on and talk about if we were to get pulled over or something like that in a situation. And, they kind of discuss how we behave and stuff like that. We also had different government officials come on, and just everybody was just able to ask questions and just talk to them about, how we can help create change. And one of the main things, like I said, that came up was voting. And that's mainly what was going on. I feel like Coach Tuck did a great job with just bringing people in and educating us about the topics and just about our government and how it runs and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what our conversations were going like.
Well, I think you're being a great representative for the football team, and I love how your team is handling the conversation, especially since it's such a deep and a good conversation to have with everyone around. So I know that you've spoken up in the environment where other student athletes are involved. What has that been like?
So like you said, we did have a big meeting with, all athletics, both men and women. And it was kind of like the same conversation, but it was more of us expressing how we feel so that, the other side of the spectrum can understand. Because, like I said, it starts with that conversation. It starts with understanding to be able to want to help us. That conversation basically consists of multiple African American athletes explaining, how they feel about everything going on right now. George Floyd, all the deaths going on, Brianna. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened in that conversation. It was nice because a lot of people spoke up afterwards of all different ethnicities. White people spoke up, all different athletes. Women spoke up. It was awesome to just hear everybody be able to voice their thoughts and, stand together as one.
I think it's really cool how y'all had the space for the discussions across the board of all student athletes. I know that here at ISU we're doing something similar, and with me being the vice president, I was for sure that we needed to have it here, and it will be soon. And to hear that it went so well with y'all, I'm very optimistic about ours here. So my next question for you is, are you involved in any organizations outside of football that are propelling you to being the leader you want to be?
I'd like to get involved with some of our, I think there's something called the DLC that we made recently. It's called the Diversity and Leadership Committee. I'd like to get involved with that, but I am involved with a group called AIA Athletes in Action. It's basically just like a Christian community where all athletes can come together and, just talk about our beliefs in God and stuff like that. So I've had the ability to speak up, be a leader in those meetings. So I feel like that's helped me become the leader that I want to become in the future.
Yes, I'm very familiar with AIA because I'm in it as well here at ISU. And I know for myself, my relationship with God has just grown tremendously throughout this time. especially now with everything going on. So, do you think your faith has helped you in your discussions with your family, friends, and everyone around you of what you're going through with everything going on, including the pandemic, social injustice, and racism discussions, and just being a student athlete? How do you think your faith has helped you during this time?
Oh man, that my faith is the main thing I feel like that's helped me, building and strengthening my relationship with God. So I feel like He provides, these opportunities for the leadership, and I know that if I trust in Him, I'll be able to be a great leader in the future.
So, as you continue to use your faith in this situation where you're in the limelight and speaking up as an upperclassman, do you think this is molding you into the leader you want to be in the future?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Feel like little opportunities like this, I try not to really shy away from these opportunities to be able to speak up. And because when I do speak up with these opportunities, I feel like I gain courage. I get more comfortable every time I speak. Being an upperclassman, I try to lead by example, and so that my teammates can see the way I work, and it kind of motivates them to do so as well. So I feel like all those things are gonna help me and propel me to become the leader I want to be in the future.
Since you've gotten a new head coach, how has that relationship been formed for you to express what kind of leader you want to be?
I feel like I've been able to just, talk to him, about anything. I feel able to, I can, it's like a platform where I could just speak about anything, speak my opinion, speak my heart. I feel like there's no judgment or anything. I feel like he kind of makes it easy to be a leader the way he coaches. I just feel like it's just comfortable. Like I could just speak to my teammates and motivate them whenever I want. And he kind of just established that leadership and that mentality just in the way he acts. So it's kind of nice to have him as a head coach, new head coach.
Well, I truly respect your views on leadership and respect how you're going to move forward with your program, as well as follow you in the changes you implement in the rest of your career. Which leads to my last question of what advice do you have for a student athlete or just a student in general who wants to speak up but is afraid to?
I think the main advice I would have for these student athletes or like just students, as you said, that are afraid to speak up is just, don't shy away from opportunities. Opportunities are kind of put in front of you for a reason. If you have an opportunity to speak up, jump at it instead of being afraid. I feel like it is very hard to speak up and step out of your comfort zone, but I feel like so many great things happen when you step out of your comfort zone. So, just don't be timid. Just have confidence in yourself and just go speak up. Because, like I said, great things happen when you step out of your comfort zone.
This is amazing advice, and I really appreciate you saying that because it needs to be said and heard. I also think that it's great that other student athletes can look to someone like you to answer this question for all of us. Well, Emmanuel, this has been a great chat, and I really appreciate you coming to talk to me on the podcast today.
Oh, man. Thank you guys for having me. It has been a great chat. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in and follow us on Twitter at 1Q Leadership. And as always, I'm Kendi Hilliard and go you Redbirds.
This episode of the One Question Leadership podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.